Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to call the Committee on Accreditation meeting back to order for the afternoon session.
Is your flight okay?
We are going to start with item 12, which is the report of the accreditation team site visit to Anaheim Elementary School District. Consultant Gay Roby will introduce this item. Joining her at the table is team lead Barbara Howard, institutional representative Susan Malani, curriculum specialist induction, and Tammy Ledesma, program director. Does anyone need to recuse themselves? All right, Ms. Roby, will you begin, please?
Thank you. The Anaheim Elementary School District site visit took place November 5th through the 7th of 2018, and it seems so long ago when you get into the thralls of accreditation site visits. It was a visit that took place with no extraordinary circumstances. We had a 3-member team, and our team lead was Barb Howard, and I'd like to turn it over to her for the report of the team.
Thank you, Gay. It is always a pleasure to report on an accreditation site visit, and this visit to Anaheim was a great privilege. We're a 3-person team with our consultant Gay Roby and my colleagues Lori Masari and Christopher Persky, and I want to take a minute to thank them for their very thorough preparation in advance of the visit and their conscientious professionalism throughout the visit. I really would also like to thank the team from Anaheim, especially their director, Susan Kelleher-Holtz. Her thorough preparation in advance of the visit allowed the process to go very smoothly. We received all documents well in advance of the visit, so the team was able to arrive with a thorough understanding of the program design. Each member had begun their initial writing of reports based on the documents that had been provided, as well as beginning the preparation of interview questions. During the visit, we conducted interviews with all constituent groups. Interviews were very well organized and very well attended. Further review of the documents also took place during the visit. Based on the interviews and the document review, the team found that all common standards were met, program standards 1, 2, 4, 5, and 6 were met, and program standard 3 was met with concerns. The interviews provided several particularly compelling trends in Anaheim that led to the team's unanimous decision. First, the district's leadership expressed a strong visionary understanding of the role of teacher induction in teacher recruitment, retention, and professional growth. Every leader we spoke to, from the superintendent to the site administrators, spoke so highly of the program, how effective it was, and talked about how well integrated it was within the culture of the district. It was extremely evident that all candidates felt very well supported and appreciative of both their mentors and the program leadership. Candidates also expressed appreciation for the choice now afforded to them in professional learning opportunities. Candidates select from a menu of options to attend professional learning aligned to their ILP and their individual interests. Interviews with teachers, both with participating teachers and their mentors, provided strong evidence of the impact of induction on new teacher well-being, new teacher professional growth, and student learning. Participating teachers were overwhelmingly positive. They were especially appreciative of the support provided by their mentors and the program director. Many of them called her by name and said, "Oh, she always helps us, she's always available." They did, however, clarify, the beginning teachers clarified, that they spent significant time beyond the mentoring sessions completing forms after work hours. At the time of the visit, the ILP document included 26 steps, which all candidates were required to complete. Candidates were also required to attend monthly meetings in which they were given guidance related to completing the inquiry process that is included in the ILP. These meetings were mandatory. The team was unanimous in their conclusion that these elements of Anaheim's programs were not fully aligned with the 2016 induction standards and could be considered burdensome by the candidate. Candidates did seem aware that there was far less paperwork than there had been in the past, but the consensus of the team was that the candidate experience needed to be more deeply individualized, involve less filling out of forms, and not include regular mandatory meetings. While interviewing stakeholders and other constituents, they spoke often about the program's responsiveness to feedback, as well as the availability of program leadership to address any questions and concerns. That was a real theme, the availability of the program to help with anything. All constituent groups repeatedly affirmed the strong and effective program leadership. A strong and meaningful, evidence of a meaningful teacher induction experience was uncovered in many ways during the visit. However, further progress towards the alignment of the induction standards is still needed. Based upon this process, the team unanimously recommends accreditation with stipulations, including a 7th-year report to verify the completion of their current movement towards alignment to the implementation of the 2016 induction standards. Thank you. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Ms. Howard. We'd like to call upon the institution to share some thoughts about the visit. I'll remind you that this is not a time to argue the findings.
Good afternoon. First, we want to thank the Commission for having us. We are enjoying the beautiful weather here, unlike where we came from. We also wanted to thank Barbara, Lori, Christopher, and Gay for being just an amazing site visit team. They were professional, they were forthcoming, they were thoughtful, and most importantly, they were kind. And the feedback that they gave us really resonated with us. They said, you're so close. You just have a few changes to make. Be creative, be thoughtful, take your time. And that really is what we followed. And so we've been very busy since the site visit, having many collaborative conversations. And when I say conversations, that means with our new teachers, our support providers, our entire advisory board. We work together as a team, and our decisions are made as a team, and we want everyone to feel that their feedback is valued and we hear you. So once we were able to have the time to make those, have those collaborative conversations, we have now moved into the action phase of our plan. So I wanted to kind of give you an update of where we are. First and foremost, we have completely removed all fact documents. Now, when I say that, it's like, oh, fact, right? We had just a few forms that our stakeholders felt were so important and meaningful to the teachers. It was so hard for us to let those go, but we have, because our team, our site visit team, let us know you can still keep those. You can house them in a little toolbox, a mentor support toolbox, but they cannot be mandatory and they cannot be used in any way in that, thank you, that form. But if you feel that those are meaningful, if the mentor and the new teacher would like to use them for their learning and their own individual needs, then that's there. So we really took that feedback to heart, and we have done that. Another thing that we have done, as you heard Barbara say, we did a lot of work on our individual learning plan around our 2 inquiries that our new teachers do. And for this process, again, our entire team, advisory board, support providers, and new teachers were able to give us their input and their feedback. And so the individual learning plan is now the main form that our new teachers use, and it is basically a template of the process of inquiry that we would give them to follow. However, it is optional if that template or that process is not individualized to their learning. They have the permission to revise it and use it however they choose. So again, it is a tool, a starting off point, but it's not something they have to do. And the last thing that we've done based off of the feedback is we have changed our induction meeting format with our participating teachers, and now we have offered an optional opportunity for a facilitated collaboration with the new teachers and support providers. Thank you.
Wonderful. Sounds like you've got a great start to some of the recommendations outlined in the report. Congratulations on that piece. I'd like to open the floor up to the COA members, and if they have any questions or clarifications for Anaheim. Yep. Member Alvarado.
So congratulations. Actually, you answered my question as I, prepared for the meeting. That I was going to ask in terms of what steps are you taking, and it sounds to me like you're already on it. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
All right. All right. Member Forbes and Member Chikowski.
I also wanted to say congratulations, and I learned a lot from reading the report. The report was very readable, very well organized, and that tells me that your preparation for the site visit, was very well done. So, congratulations.
Member Chikowski.
Yeah, I think also I'm responsible for an induction program myself, and unlike you, I didn't have to kind of adapt what was to what is, which is a challenge, I think, in a way that when you're starting from the ground up, you don't have to face. So I guess what I hear with your talking about the fact paperwork is I think programs like ours struggle with ensuring that there's consistent expectations across evidence that can look a variety of ways for a variety of people. And that's really a mirror of kind of what we want to happen in classrooms, right? I mean, how good is good enough shouldn't just look one way, right? So I appreciate some of the thoughtful ways you're going about moving to that objective. Taking notes. Thank you.
Yes, Member Erickson.
Again, congratulations on the work and the transition that you're making with your program. And I would move that we accept the report and the recommendations of the site visit team.
All right, motion by Erickson, second by Borges. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries, and congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, that takes us to item 15, which is the report of the accreditation team site visit to Walnut Valley Unified School District. All right, Consultant Karen Sacramento will introduce this item. Joining her, do we have video?
We should.
Hold on.
Who's supposed to be joining us on video?
Debbie Parker.
Debbie Parker.
Debbie, can you hear us?
I can hear you, yes.
Okay, we just can't see you at the moment.
Well, it says that my video is being blocked by the host.
Okay, so we're fixing it on our end. Hold on one second.
Okay.
There you are. All right.
All right, let's try again. Consultant Karen Sacramento will introduce this item. Joining her by video is team lead Debbie Parker, and at the table, institutional representatives Julie Sheldon, induction coordinator, and Linda Friedman, induction specialist. Does anyone need to recuse themselves? All right, Ms. Sacramento, will you begin, please?
I will. Good afternoon, COA members. As the state consultant to this visit, it is my pleasure to share the report from the Walnut Valley Unified School District Teacher Induction Program site visit, which was held on November 5th through 7th. I would like to acknowledge the tremendous leadership of Julie Sheldon, the induction coordinator for the program, and Linda Friedman, induction specialist, and their team of teacher leaders and administrators who work together to provide the Walnut Valley program. I have the opportunity to work with many induction programs across the state to build together a robust, authentic, and excellent standards-based mentoring program for new teachers. And the Walnut Valley Unified School District Teacher Induction Induction Program is exemplary, as it really does embody what we're trying to do, the spirit, the purpose, and the intent of the California Teacher Induction Program. So I'd like to also acknowledge the extremely hard work and professionalism of the site visit team and the tremendous leadership of Debbie Parker, who was our team lead. Her guidance around the standards before the visit, during the visit, standards and preconditions really created a seamless visit. So I will turn it over to Debbie now to review the program findings.
Thank you, Karen. Is my volume okay?
Your volume is good. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right. So I'd like to just add to Karen's acknowledgments. I had an amazing team, Rhonda Munoz and Julia DeWeese, who were so very well prepared for the review. They did a comprehensive review of the documentation before the visit, which always makes it so much go so much more smoothly once we arrive. And they were both exceptional in their professionalism during the review, and both so good and succinct in writing reports, which made all of our jobs much easier. Karen was great to work with as well. I appreciate always the Commission's guidance during the review and their assistance in asking questions, and I know they put in a lot of time to make this process work. And along with Karen, I would acknowledge the hospitality of Julia and Linda and Marla and all the pre-work in our accommodations and all of our meals and everything they did to make us comfortable. Julie in particular was so responsive to questions, and anytime we asked for additional evidence or anything we needed, she was there to make that happen. So as you know, after a thorough review of all the documentation and interviews with really several hundred stakeholders, I think we interviewed 300 something people, the team found that all program and common standards were met. So I'd like to briefly share just some of the highlights from our report that led to those findings. We've found the institutional infrastructure that supports educator preparation in this program to be articulated by a superintendent and assistant superintendents and principals, site administrators. Everyone shared that this was a top priority in the district and that it really set the tone for the expectations for high teacher performance from the beginning with teachers that were part of the participating in the program. The district's culture of professional learning and collaboration was evident, and several leaders spoke of the concept of servant leadership as foundational to the work they did. And I think that was evident in that, they've opened their program to several districts in the area, some that did not have any access to teacher induction. We also found that there was strong representation on their advisory. They were deeply involved in program implementation, including recruitment and support. Several of their IHE representatives sit on the advisory, which allowed for that articulation around teacher preparation, as well as recruitment of candidates. Site administrators expressed that they are part of the support system provided to teachers. They participate in goal setting as part of the ILP process. And candidates, mentors, and administrators all stated that they appreciate the induction goals and the site goals, the way the induction goals and site goals were connected so that it didn't feel like teachers were doing something separate from the work that they did every day in the classroom. Throughout our interviews, individuals expressed how the program requirements were streamlined to make the induction process meaningful, relevant, and individualized. And support for both mentors and candidates is provided to assist them in supporting diversity through professional development provided by the program. It was really clear that the program had worked over the past few years to align their practices to the new standards, and we really felt it was a perfect balance between focused support and individualization. The program also truly uses their data for program improvement. They seek input from all their stakeholders. They show that they value that input by acting on it and to continually improve the program. Advisory members expressed that they dig deeply into the data. They ask why, so they can make informed decisions to continually improve the program. And one thing Julie said is, if you want to improve your program, ask people what they want and then act on it. And that was definitely confirmed in the interviews we had while we were there for the visit. We also found multiple sources of data, or through multiple sources of data and interviews, that the stakeholders confirmed a positive, that the program had a positive impact on teaching and learning. Candidates spoke about how the inquiry process helped them develop reflective practices, see student growth, and improve their instruction. And completer data also confirmed that participants felt the program was very effective in helping them develop their professional practice. So throughout our interviews, we saw overwhelming appreciation expressed for the personnel in this program, the individualized attention, and especially the availability of the program coordinator, Julie, who really genuinely seeks input from all program stakeholders. It was a pleasure to be part of this process in reviewing such a well-designed program where there's such a strong commitment to teacher excellence. So with all common standards and program standards found to be met, the team unanimously recommends a decision of accreditation.
Great. Thank you, Ms. Parker, for that thorough report and for your hard work in leading the team through this accreditation site visit, which sounds like it was quite the pleasure. We'd like to call upon the members of the institution to say a few words about the visit. Just a reminder that this is not an opportunity to argue the findings, not that you would, but just a reminder, but just to share your thoughts and insights regarding the site visit itself.
Well, we want to thank you for this opportunity. This means a great deal to be able to present our program to you, and it was a great privilege to work with this site visit team. I have to commend Karen and Debbie in particular. All throughout the process, the communication was clear. It was positive. We felt that they truly wanted to be as transparent as possible in the process and communicated really consistently and clearly with us, which was very much appreciated. The entire team was very professional and positive, set everyone's minds at ease. They were also very patient with many interviews that they needed to do for the high number of people, stakeholders, that came to those interviews on the site visit. Our main goal of this visit was in learning. We wanted to have as complete and clear a picture of our program as possible for the team, and then to learn from the experience, and for all stakeholders to be involved, because Debbie is right, that's a high priority for us, that we're always listening, because we serve those new teachers and their students. That is our focus. And so it was very important to have those voices as part of the process. And so I'm very grateful to all the people who participated in those interviews as well. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Terrific. Thank you. At this time, I'd like to call upon the COA members, and if you have any comments or questions, Member Borges.
I just want to say, reading through this and being part of an induction program, you have a huge program, all those school districts and charter schools, and when I look at the responses from your 94% of special ed and 93% of general ed teachers talked about how it met their needs, it made them reflect on what they're doing and be better teachers. That's amazing. I mean, that you have great organization skills, that you could coordinate all those districts. It's amazing.
Thank you. It is absolutely a team effort. And,
Microphone. There you go.
I do have to make sure that I give a commendation to our induction specialist, Linda Friedman. We make a great team, and our team of lead mentors are liaisons from our districts. So it truly, absolutely is a team effort.
There are no other comments. First, I must check, does anyone need to recuse themselves? This is an action item. Do I have a motion? Motion by Member Erickson and a second by by Member Chakowski. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed? All right, thank you. Motion carries. And thank you, Ms. Parker, Ms. Sheldon, Ms. Friedman, and Ms. Sacramento. Congratulations. All right, marching right along. Is Mills College here? Yes. And Consultant Sarah Salari Colombini are you taking her?
I'm here. I'm on the.
Oh, yay, she's here.
Yes.
Thank you, Sarah, joining us from Maui.
Yeah.
Joining us from Maui.
Yeah.
Hide that Mai Tai.
Oh, I don't. Not yet. Soon. So, are we ready?
Yes, the consultant Dr. Sarah Solari Colombini is joining us via video technology and will present this item, which is the discussion of the 7th year report from Mills College. Joining her today at the table is institutional representative Diane Kittel, Dean of Education. Ms. Colombini, will you begin, please?
Certainly. So, good afternoon. On March 22nd, the Committee on Accreditation, on behalf of the California Commission on Teacher Credentialing, assigned the status of accreditation with stipulations to Mills College and its credential programs. The accreditation team identified concerns with respect to Common Standard 4, which was continuous improvement, and Program Standard 2, preparing candidates towards mastery of the teaching performance expectations for the multiple subject and single subject credential program. As part of the accreditation process, the COA determined that Mills College would submit evidence regularly and systematically to the commission, and there would be 2 reports. This is the first of the 2 reports. The second will come to you in June. And so we have Dean Kittel with us to share more of the details of the work that the institution has done to address the stipulations that were identified in Common Standard 4 and Program Standard 2.
Thank you, Ms. Colombini. Yes, Kittel. Thank you.
Push it one more time. Okay, there. Thank you for welcoming me here today. We have put together a plan to address the findings of our site visit, which was last March. And as Sarah indicated, we are addressing 2 areas. The first that I will talk about had to do with the accomplishment of mastery for the students in the math science program. In the last year, for a variety of reasons, at an institutional level, a decision was made that we not have a distinct section for those students, that they be integrated into our humanities section with some accommodations made. After this finding, at the institutional level, administrators moved away from that decision. So I'm happy to say that this year we actually have a distinct section for math science students. We have 1 semester of evidence, survey evidence, and student work that indicates that students are quite satisfied with the separate section for math science. In our second area that we're addressing has to do with Common Standard 4, and we've struggled with this as some other smaller institutions may, because we run very small programs and we're a very small faculty. We have developed, perhaps you could call it a habit of informally managing data. So it's quite helpful that Sarah and the team came in and really gave us some guidance. I really want to thank Sarah in particular on being there for us and giving us a lot of feedback as we've worked through how to construct our plan. The plan we've submitted to you, we feel, has really put a lot of structure around some practices we were implementing more informally, and we think the collection of this data is going to be quite helpful and useful. We also think now that we've put this plan in place, as we move into the spring, we will refine it, perhaps develop it further, and I know we'll be submitting another report to you in June, so it may look slightly different by then. But we are addressing the findings of the report, and we feel that the work we've been doing has been really helpful to our programs, that it's bettering our programs to engage in this work.
Thank you so much. Just a reminder, we do not have to take action on this item today, but we can, and we can if we need to, but this is an opportunity for you right now to ask any clarifying questions. They will be coming back to us, I believe, with another report. Yeah.
Yes, one more report.
Yeah. So any COA members that would like to ask a question or two or clarifying or comments? Are we good to move forward, or do we don't need an action? So thank you so much for the update. Thank you for the report, Dr. Colombini, and have a lovely afternoon.
Thank you. I'll see you in June.
Thank you, Dean. Michelle, thank you.
We are moving fast.
Joy Maui.
I think we need a field trip. Carried away in our conversation there. Sorry.
And we need the video back on.
All right. So Consultant Lynette Roby will introduce this item. Joining her at the table is Team Lead Deborah Siwi. And via video technology is Institutional Representative Joanne Jenkins. Does anyone need to recuse themselves? Ms. Roby, will you begin, please?
I will. Thank you. Good afternoon. It's my pleasure to introduce to you the Etiwanda School District Accreditation Site Visit Report for their accreditation site visit, which was held October 29th through the 31st of 2018. Seems like ages ago. The site visit team included Valerie Saylor from Bakersfield City School District, and Denise Duell from Turlock Unified School District, and the team lead, who you've already introduced, and sitting next to me is Deborah Siwi from Contra Costa County Office of Education. And you've already introduced Joanne, and she has with her the assistant soup and
Charlene.
Okay. I'd like to thank them for hosting the visit. It was a joy. The team was a joy. Denise was organized and, Deborah was organized and thoughtful as a team lead, and she and the team members worked diligently before the visit, reviewing the documentation and evidence that Etiwanda provided. And they worked equally hard during the visit. I just want to take a moment to acknowledge the way the team members collaborated and prepared prior to the visit. And this became very evident when one of the team members, Denise Duell, was unable to participate in the actual visit due to a last-minute personal emergency. But because of all the work that she did prior to the visit and the communication amongst the team members, Deborah and Valerie were able to jump in, complete the interviews, and were able to use what Denise had done and prepare the reports with relative ease. So I'd like to thank all of them for doing that pre-work. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Deborah, who will provide you with the report of findings and the recommendation for accreditation.
Good afternoon. On behalf of the site visit team, we'd like to thank the Commission and Lynette Roby for the opportunity to participate in the CTC's new accreditation review system and for their support throughout the Etiwanda site visit. Also, many thanks to site team members Valerie Saylor and Denise Duell for their organized and professional participation and preparation that made everything go smoothly. The Etiwanda Teacher Induction Program's commitment to providing individualized, authentic, and effective new teacher support was evident throughout our accreditation review. We found that collaboration is strong between all district departments in support of the induction program. We learned that almost every person in administration has either been a mentor in induction or a candidate in induction. New teachers are valued. At the first school board meeting of the year, the Assistant Superintendent of Personnel presents a short bio of each new teacher, introducing them to the district.
Cool.
The Assistant Superintendent of Business takes all new teachers on a narrated bus tour of the district, visiting neighborhoods in which he himself lived in as a child.
That's cool.
And, as was stated in an interview, the Assistant Superintendent of Business tells all district staff, I quote, "Your boss is the 5-year-old who's going to spend the next 9 years with us. So make sure all of our new teachers have everything they need to serve their boss." District resources are allocated to fund the full release mentor model and differentiated professional development to ensure strong new teacher support. Etiwanda's full release model for mentoring provides mentors adequate time and resources to differentiate their support according to the needs of teachers. Mentors model lessons, co-teach, observe, and provide feedback to their teachers continually throughout the year. Content-specific support from additional veteran classroom teachers is also provided to further meet teachers' content or grade-specific needs. Individualized learning plans are developed based on goals specific to each new teacher's identified CSTP growth. During candidate interviews, we learned that professional development is created according to the teacher's content and ILP goals. Sessions are offered that allow candidates to work collaboratively on similar goals. And site administrators shared in an interview that their veteran teachers often ask if they can participate in the new teacher training or if they can have a mentor because they see the growth of the new teachers on their campus. Stakeholders across the board commended the dedicated work of the Etiwanda Teacher Induction Program leadership. Candidates, in particular, expressed that they felt listened to and that their feedback for improvement is seriously taken into account by program leadership. As a result of candidate feedback, ILP development is now held a few weeks into the school year to allow candidates and their mentors enough time to develop a context for collaboration. To further support the program's mentors, the induction program leader meets now with each mentor individually at the beginning and the middle of the year to discuss the mentor's goals and focus and to collaboratively support the mentor in supporting the new teacher. During interview, many stakeholders said how much they valued the leadership shown by the Etiwanda Teacher Induction Program leader and appreciated what she had done for the Etiwanda Induction Program. Our site visit team also appreciated the eye for detail shown by the induction program leadership in providing clear and authentic evidence of meeting all the accreditation submission requirements and for the thoughtful preparations they made for our visit. Upon a thorough review of Etiwanda's program documentation, as well as evidence gained through interviews of all program stakeholders, our site visit team found that all program standards, as well as all common standards, have been met. Thus, it is the recommendation of our site visit team that the Etiwanda School District Teacher Induction Program be granted full accreditation.
Thank you for that terrific and uplifting report. Sounds like a great place to be. I take a minute right now for the institution to make a few comments about the site visit. Just a reminder, this isn't in a time to argue the findings of the report, but just to share your experiences about the site visit. We have with us Joanne Jenkins, and I don't have the name of the other person in front of me.
Charlie Bragg, the Assistant Superintendent of Instruction.
Fabulous. Thank you so much.
First of all, we want to say thank you to our site visit team. The process prior to the visit and even here, you could tell that they had spent a great deal of time examining our program, and they were so organized, communicated throughout the whole process while they were here. Even though they were one member down, they were just so efficient and so willing to connect with all our stakeholders, and we truly appreciated that and felt very informed all throughout that process. The most amazing thing has been the shift to the standards. So, just a quick moment there is that those standards have allowed us as a program to innovate, to really get to the heart of what each candidate needs. And it just allows us to further embrace and appreciate our newest educators in our district so that we can make them the best that they can possibly see in themselves and what they can do for their students. And it is fun to hear our veteran teachers say, how come I don't get to do what induction teachers do? And so we hope that this positive feeling about induction gets to continue, because it's not only showing in our candidates and our veterans, but also in student achievement. They're just little rock stars, and we're hoping that their philosophy for education stays with them always, and they stay in the profession as well. So thank you so much for the opportunity, because it was truly a blessing. It was a lot of work. Believe me, I'm not ready to do it again next year, but it was an amazing process, and I hope everyone can see that potential in it. So thank you so much.
Thank you. At this time, I'd like to ask, does anyone need to recuse themselves before I open the floor? All right. COM members, would you like to comment or ask any clarifying questions? Yes, Member Erickson.
Just a comment. First of all, congratulations. Thank you for a well-written report and additional information. That was nice to hear what support this program is getting from district leadership. So, and with that, there may be some more comments, but I would recommend that we accept this recommendation.
And so I have a recommendation from Member Erickson and a second from Member Riggs. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Well, congratulations, and go forth and have a great day knowing that you are fully accredited.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Siwi, for a great report.
Congratulations.
That takes us to, do we have Newark around?
Because it's hers as well. If not, we can go to a different item.
I have 2 o'clocks. I also have Channel Islands.
Oh, somebody is there. Oh, there she is. So she is there.
Hi,
Hey,
we're
that's
here.
Newark. That's Newark.
Yes, Virginia and I are
Ready
here.
today. It's nice. There we go. Great. The sounds of the camera.
Item 18 is the discussion of the second quarterly report from Newark Unified School District. Consultant Lynette Roby will present this item. Joining her via video technology is institutional representative Leonore Rebosura, Director of Teacher Induction. Ms. Roby, will you begin, please?
Thank you. This agenda item brings before you the second quarterly report submitted by Newark Unified School District. The first quarterly report came before you during the November 2018 COA meeting. And again, we have with us today Leonore Robasura, the program director, and with her is Virginia Williamson, and she is a retired coordinator of the program in the district. And they will be available to answer any questions that you might have about the report and the program. You've been provided a copy of the second quarterly report from the Newark Unified School District, but I'm just going to give you a very brief summary of the highlights of the updates in this report. So in November of 2018, COA members asked for further information about two topics following the report, the first quarterly report, and that included sustainability. And as you recall, you requested more information about that particular issue, and then evidence of collecting the data and the convening of the advisory council and how they used that data. So first, regarding sustainability, there was concern that one person, the program director, was the sole person with oversight of the daily operations of the induction program. In response, Newark has provided a sustainability plan that includes the following: a more comprehensive structure of support at the district and the site level, in which there will be lead mentors who will now act as an intermediary layer of support between the induction program director and the candidates assigned mentors. It also includes a clear plan for the involvement of mentors in the development of the individual learning plan, involvement of mentors in initial classroom observations, and their involvement additionally in observations that come up during the ILP process. The plan also allows for mentor workshops that will train mentors about how to participate in effective candidate conversations. And so that one person is not responsible for all of the trainings, there will be a train the trainer workshops so that others can be trained how to facilitate the mentor workshops. The second concern and question that you had was regarding evidence of data collection and the convening of their advisory council and how they use that data. Evidence of these things were requested as a follow-up to the plans submitted in the first quarterly report. So what they've provided as evidence is as follows: graphic representation of candidate and mentor data collected to date, descriptions of the analysis of that data, descriptions of improvements made to the program that were informed by the analysis of the data and that were made in collaboration with the advisory council. And they also provided agenda and notes from the advisory council meetings that have been convened so far. So with that, Newark Unified School District is continuing to move forward, and as a reminder, their revisit is scheduled for April 6th and 7th. Again, we have representatives from the district to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Roby. At this time, I'd like to offer the opportunity to Ms. Ribasura or Williamson to talk about the report and what's happening as you move forward in this process.
One of the biggest interesting things that actually happened to us with regards to sustainability was the fact that I actually had to be on leave for the last 2-3 weeks. It's my first day back because I got injured, and it actually put a plan into place wherein Virginia and the mentors were able to run the mentor workshop, do calibration activities to understand fully the ILP process, and be able to meet with candidates for their benchmark meetings. So that gave us some, a sense of like what could happen and what might that look like. We continue to look into the sustainability plan that we described, and that was actually something that our own superintendent has a vision for. So we're going to continue to look forward to that. The data collection has revealed a lot of really good data regarding the program. We have very clear understanding of the level of support and the quality of support from the mentors, from the candidates, and it's been really good, just really knowing where we are as a program.
Okay, thank you so much. At this time, I'd like to provide the COA with the opportunity to ask any clarifying questions about this report or offer up any comments. Site visits coming up in April, so we will have another report. When would that be? May, at the May meeting, maybe?
Actually,
Yeah.
may I intersect? My understanding was the site visits in May 6 and 7.
Oh, I have the wrong month. Sorry.
Sorry about that.
That might have thrown you a little bit. Sorry about that.
We're ready. If you, yeah, we will be ready. If it's in April, we will be ready. But May would be better.
We'll see you in June. All right. Yes, Ms. Erickson.
Thank you for the update and appreciate the data that you provided. Have there been any aha moments from the data, or how have you utilized that so far to move forward in your program?
Thank you for that question. One of the things that data collection has brought forth was the fact that the very first data we collected regarding mentor and candidate relationships were anonymous. The very first one in October. So when problems, or what seemed to be problems, came up, we really had no way of addressing it individually, right? So it was a general conversation with the candidates or the mentors, and mostly the mentors, of trying to really figure out like how to address those. The candidate logs that were completed in November provided much more detail to it and gave us a lot more information, so that we were able to actually have conversations with the mentors or the candidates about successes and challenges. We were able to share with the mentors at the last mentor workshop that Virginia actually ran, how the candidates have felt about their support, and it was met with really good, but objective reactions, and it also gave them a chance to really reflect on the quality of mentoring that they're giving, even if most of the candidates have expressed that they've been receiving really good, high-quality mentorship. There were specific incidents or specific situations that were expressed in the candidate logs that I was actually able to have conversations with the candidates about and really understand what the problem is, so we could problem solve. And we were actually able to resolve them, and to realize that a lot of them was issues of just needing clarification, they're feeling overwhelmed, other things happening, and we were able to work through it so that they felt a lot more supported through the induction process.
Member Balatayo.
Hello. To piggyback on that same notion, can you tell us more about your Ask Leonor sessions, please, and what entails during those sessions? Are they face-to-face? Is that in the same vein as the meetings that you described earlier? How are those sessions going?
So the Ask Leonor sessions came up from the, I think, October mentor workshop, wherein the mentors who were used to the old system, where we had mentors and candidates sitting together in the room listening to all the information, raised some concerns about the candidates not understanding what needed to do. And since this is a whole new program, they weren't really sure how to guide their candidates through it. So the Ask Leonor sessions were drop-in sessions. So I sent out the Google Doc. They signed, I gave them certain, it was usually an hour, but most of them could go more. I just had a Google Doc open with dates that I was available. They signed up for it and they came. We just talked about what it was that they needed. There were days where we had 3 candidates, and once their question was answered, they left. Some mentors scheduled it so that they brought their candidates with them, or they all met together, so we had a conversation around what they needed. It was very individualized. There were no agendas. It was a drop-in. And it was geared towards really helping them understand or clarify what they needed. And it was not required. And it was a response to what they needed at that time.
Is this something that you'd want to continue moving forward, or is this a temporary thing? What are your thoughts about this whole session?
We had talked about that. So Ask Leonor was around October, November. And then in January, it's my individual mid-year benchmarks with them, so individual conversations, and I've been able to share that with Virginia. In February, since we led the mentors, or Virginia and Ann, another mentor, in the January mentor workshop, led the calibration of the ILP. So like understanding what an ILP is. The mentors went through reviewing sample ILPs to really have conversation about how does this ILP show growth and competence? What must we be looking for? What are some areas of improvement for them as a mentor? So and then when I met with the candidates, I also went over their ILPs with them. So their next step is to actually have the candidates and the mentors with a tool that we designed go through the ILP of the candidate and have conversations around it. If I find that they need additional support, then yes, Ask Leonor sessions can be scheduled again in March or April. I hope to be able to schedule as much. They also know that if they need to meet with me, they can just call or let me know, and we can Google Hangout or meet in person.
Great, thank you. Member Briggs.
I also was impressed with the data collection that you've been able to do in such a short time, and it does look like you're trying to use it. So there were lots of links there, and I appreciate all that hard work. The questions that I have relate to the role of department chairs, and we had the concern that there was too much workload on the program director with the sole, as the sole person of oversight of everything. It seemed like you were doing everything, right? And so now there's a layer of department chairs at the secondary level and others at the elementary level that would model what's happening at the secondary level. And that my first concern when I read that was, is there evaluative responsibility? And then the report says no, there's no evaluative responsibility from the department chair and so that alleviated that concern.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess I'm still confused about, because it says some of them might actually have direct responsibility for induction, to be the induction mentor, and others are a secondary layer. And it sounds like that secondary layer is just kind of doing what would normally happen with a new faculty member at a school, orienting them to the school and being someone I can go to for informal things, but it has nothing really to do with the specifics of induction. So I was wondering how that promotes the sustainability, and so basically it comes down to who are the mentors, who are the induction mentors.
Got it. So that's actually one of the vision of the superintendent at the last advisory council meeting. He joined us because he was aware of that question on sustainability. So he joined us and he shared with us his ideas or his vision for mentoring. Unfortunately, and it's actually he's also tasked me with the charge to look at the job description of department chairs, because it's not consistently understood that the department chairs be the people who provide the basic mentoring at the site level, or that part of the responsibility is to provide the orientation, like you just pointed out. So he would like for us to take a look at what the job description of a department chair, and to ensure that part of that is the basic mentoring or the basic orientation or the basic go-to person. Like he wants them to be the person that the new teacher at the site goes to and can find resources and questions and be there for them. And unfortunately, he's finding it's not consistently done. And that's what that whole point is. So that's still part of the plan, to try to develop and clarify the role of the department chair. Again, all of that's still like in the works, but what he'd like to be able to do is that he'd like to have mentoring be part of the whole system, the whole district, and it's not just segregated or what's the word for it? Limited to induction.
So I guess the question I would have is, as a follow-up, is how does that type of mentoring alleviate the induction type of mentoring that is loaded on you?
Okay.
You know, I understand it's a valuable thing to have department chairs be part of the support of new teachers and all teachers. How is this helping with the duties that are loaded on you? If that makes sense. Am I remembering the conversation correctly? Okay.
Okay. I will be more specific when we respond to this next time.
All right. Thank you. Member Forbes, did you have a popping that hand up?
No, I think that the question that was just asked addressed some of my concerns too, because it almost sounded like now an HR type duty was being added to your plate in terms of rewriting a job description that wasn't in the first place set out to be part of the induction program, because department chairs are a whole separate thing. And I just wanted to be clear. I just wanted maybe a little clarification. If the department chairs as lead mentors then are considered to be part of the induction program, are they also receiving training and pay? Well, I don't know how that might be structured within your district, but some kind of compensation or recognition or release from other things, or some way in which it's not being added also to their duties.
Got it.
Member Chakowski?
Thank you for asking the question. That will really help with our planning.
My question was similar to Cheryl's here about the training of people vested with authority to support and implement program expectations. At least in my district, that's challenging, that whole department chair / mentor role. I would say, specific PD for those people is really critical. Questioning strategies, what do they understand their fundamental mission and purpose to be, and how do they parse those between their role per site administration and in support of new teachers, because the person who serves as a department chair has to wear lots of hats, lots of times, and that's really difficult, I think. So if I were you, I would think a lot about how to make clear which hat they have on at what times. Not to mention the fact that, they need to maintain a horizontal teacher-teacher relationship with the people they're supporting, and sometimes these people get caught in the middle.
That's exactly what I was just wondering, if there was any kind of opportunity for evaluation or how that teacher might feel being mentored. There's a natural mentoring that occurs with a department chair, but to make it a formalized experience, it could be quite trying for the teacher. They might not be getting the support and trusting relationship that they need in that situation.
And maybe that just needs to be clarified in whatever your faculty advisory committee is, or whatever that group that clearly kind of works with administrators. That should be very clear, because the beginning teacher is not oftentimes going to feel trust when they feel like they sort of have to conform to site or departmental expectations. So, that can often stunt growth. It can stunt the ILP as designed, which is really supposed to empower the new teacher to go in ways that he or she finds best, not to train them to be a cog. And I'm not suggesting that's what you're doing, but in worst case scenario, it could turn out that way, which would be a bummer.
Great, thank you. Member Alvarado.
So similar concerns as what I had, and I guess the question that I'd like answered for the next time that we meet is exactly what is the district doing to put in dedicated resources, not just taking existing resources and moving them over to this in addition to everything else, but just sort of showing that the leadership has sort of values-based budgeting. If they value this as a program, then there should be dedicated resources for it.
Maybe they could put it in the LCAP, like our other district had. Once it becomes a line item and an action item in the LCAP, you've got stakeholder buy-in and engagement and dedicated resource. I don't know if you get S&C funds from the state, but might be something to look into. A great way to spend those dollars. All right, any other input from the COA? All right. This is an information action item, so we do not need to take action, and I think you've received a lot of suggestions for the next report. Yes, Member Riggs?
I'm just wondering if that last suggestion will be documented in our minutes, so that somehow so that when they come back, we remember that that was requested.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Ms. Ribasoro and Williamson. We'll see you next time. Thank you so much for the updates.
Thank you.
Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Bye.
All right. That takes us to item 19. Oh, I see you are there, ready to go. This is the discussion of the 6-month follow-up report for CSU Channel Islands. Consultants Lynette Roby and Hart Boyd will present this item. Joining them via technology is institutional representative Dr. Brian Sevier, Dean, School of Education.
Hello.
What? Sevier?
Sevier, it's good.
Okay. Ms. Roby, will you begin, please?
I'll take this.
Mr. Hart, will you begin, please?
This agenda item brings before you the 6-month report submitted by California State University Channel Islands. With us today, representing CSUCI, is the Dean of the School of Education, Dr. Brian Sevier. This report addresses stipulations resulting from the April 2018 site visit to CSUCI. Following its decision, the Committee on Accreditation directed CSUCI to provide a 6-month report documenting the progress made towards meeting the goals set forth in the stipulations from the June 2018 accreditation report. The 5 stipulations required that CSUCI, 1, provide evidence that any common standard less than fully met must be addressed. 2, provide evidence of an ongoing process to inform candidates, faculty, and district partners of the unit's vision. 3, provide evidence of a formal systematic collaboration with school partners regarding the criteria for selecting clinical personnel, district-employed supervisors, and school sites. 4, provide evidence that the district-employed supervisors are trained and evaluated in a systematic manner. And 5, provide evidence of implementing a comprehensive and unit-wide assessment and evaluation system that is used for program improvement and addresses all unit programs and operations. Furthermore, CSUCI must provide evidence that a process is in place to review program and unit data on an annual basis. Lynette will now summarize CSUCI's progress towards meeting the goals set forth in the stipulations.
Thank you. So in the 6-month report, which was attached to this item, CSU Channel Islands addressed the stipulations that Hart just mentioned, and the full copy, of course, is attached to the item. I'm just going to briefly summarize some of the highlights. In response to the stipulation about vision and mission statement, CSUI Channel Islands has refined their mission and re-articulated their vision statement. And they are rebuilding their community base by holding focus groups and town hall meetings to gather stakeholder feedback. The other things that they have done include reestablishing their School of Education Advisory Board, developing a teacher residency model, that's in the works, strengthening the mentorship model, and establishing committees related to marketing, advising, assessment, partnership, and graduates. They're also revising their credential office. It's now called the Clinical Experiences and Partnerships Office, and it will house the credential advisors, permanent office staff, and they also have a new position, Associate Dean, Director of Clinical Experiences and Partnerships. Next, to ensure that there's collaboration with school partners, CSU Channel Islands is now documenting data around district-employed supervisors. They're compiling a list of district-employed supervisors, documenting the training of those supervisors, documenting site placements, and they're strengthening placement criteria, as well as strengthening the evaluation process for the district-employed supervisors. They're also creating community asset maps, which will highlight current candidate placements. The steps that have been taken to address the systematizing of data collection, analysis, and the use of that data include securing funding for an academic program assessment analyst who will be working with the university's research planning and effectiveness office to work with data collection. This includes work where they will actually update or are actually updating candidate enrollment and completion data from 2014 to present. So they're working on all of that data collection and refinement. They have also completed a fall review of existing student outcome data, and they have developed plans for improving student assessments and processes. Additionally, the School of Education's faculty will meet biannually to review data, to look at the changes and improvements made in the past year, what data was used to make those changes or to inform those changes, and they will plan for future changes and improvements. There will also be two unit review meetings held each year. Fall meetings are planned to be held in November to allow for the review of completer survey data that they receive. And just a note, due to the wildfires in the fall, they did hold the first meeting, but it was held in December. The spring unit meetings will be held when candidate performance assessment data is available. Other data to be collected includes completer surveys. An email list has been compiled for all completers, and the surveys will be sent out in the spring in order to gather completer and alumni data for use in continuous improvement. And finally, CSU Channel Islands is acquiring a new assessment management system, and they plan to pilot that in the spring with full implementations in the fall of 2019. This concludes the summary of their 6-month report. The revisit to CSU Channel Islands now, let's get this date right, has been scheduled for April 25th and 26th. Again, Dean Sevier is available for questions that you might have.
Terrific. Thanks to both of you for that update and the report. At this time, I'd like to open the floor to the COA to ask any clarifying questions of Dr. Sevier, and we'll also give Dr. Sevier an opportunity to answer those questions and add any other additional information for us. I hear lots of thinking. What? I had a couple of questions on the training of the district-employed supervisors and the strengthening of placement criteria and also the strengthening of the mentorship model. Could you be a little more specific about those three items? And we can start with the training of the district-employed supervisors.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Right now, we are reimagining. So one of the things we did, we purchased the intersegmental project login work for the 8 hours of the training. So that is going on currently with our district employed supervisors for the spring. So we reoriented some of our trainings in the fall to accommodate for the extra 2 hours and the 8 hours that comes through the intersegmental project. And then 2 hours, we've done various workshops around NGSS, co-teaching models, cognitive coaching, and so on. So that's part of the work we're doing right now. The intention moving forward is, and I'm so glad to get to talk to you all. We've done a lot in the last 6 months. We're really moving forward with a residency model where we will take a week at the beginning of the semester. We're moving all all of our programs to a cohort model that begins and goes through a fall-spring cycle. And so we will spend a week before the semester starts, really working with our district employed supervisors to get them up to speed on our philosophies, our beliefs, and what we're doing in our classes and trying to do in our methods classes and foundational coursework, but also to provide opportunities for really structured conversations around co-teaching models and, like I said, cognitive coaching ideas. That's going to start this summer, this August. We actually included that, and this is not in the report that you have. Just last week, we did submit a grant proposal for the residency grant program. And so part of that, we're working with 2 local school districts, really amazing local school districts, to write that process, to write that proposal. And that's part of the work of that residency program moving forward, that there will be a week-long intensive training for our DESs that will cover, like I said, those topics and more. So that's the work around the DES. The intentional piece is connected to that as well. So moving towards a full residency model, we're working with NCTR really closely over the last 6 months. We have another 6 months of consultancy with them to truly build. We've had residency programs on the books, sort of in name only here, really. And so our work is to truly develop those as true residency models. And so part of that work will be, and the work we've been doing the last 6 months, is identifying those partner districts that we want to work with and develop and sustain relationships with. And then as part of this process of building the residencies is really building a model for how we select true mentor teachers and support them as well in terms of how we're going to train them and work with them to develop those mentorship qualities that we want as we move forward in the residency model, and that they want as partners in the residency model as well. So that's in the works right now. So that's part of the work we're doing with our districts, with our district partners. It's also connected to the work we did. We spent the summer and fall doing really intensive focus groups across all of our stakeholders, from parents to superintendents. And then those were sort of homogenous focus groups, and then large town hall meetings in the fall to really get a sense of what our educational stakeholders are seeing in the candidates that come out of CI and what they want to see, and the sort of prioritized skills, prioritized competencies that this community and these school districts really see as significant and important for the ready day one teacher. So those are the 2. I think there may be one more piece of your question, but did I get most of that?
I believe you covered the 3 questions that I asked. Member Riggs?
I just want to commend you. When I read Common Standard 3 response starting on page 7 and it goes on, that is a list that would be helpful to any agency that's trying to meet the standard related to placements and also the training, which is just, those standards are so difficult. And it's like you've got a timeline and a step-by-step plan of what needs to happen, especially if you're an institution dealing with multiple districts, which is just hugely challenging to meet those standards. So I plan to go back and look at this more when I get home. So thank you.
Thank you.
Right, any other comments? This is an information action item, and if we want, we can just say good luck at your site visit in April, and we look forward to reading that report in May. Yeah, at our May COE meeting. All right.
Great.
Thank you so much, Dr. Save.
Thank you so much.
Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to take a 5
Yes, thank you. At your last meeting in November, you were presented with an agenda item that brought up some issues with the language in Chapter 3 of the Accreditation Handbook, specifically the language in the section on inactive programs. The changes in the bulleted section in your agenda item in Appendix A are intended to better align that section with the current Common and Program standards and with the accreditation system as it currently operates. Staff presented several options for amending the language, and in Appendix A, I'm sorry, I got ahead of myself. Staff presented several options at your last meeting for amending the language, and we're returning to you now with those proposed amendments that you will find in Appendix A. So in the bulleted section, which is the top section in Appendix A, those changes are just meant to better align that section. You will see then that the language requiring institutions to submit a plan for candidates to complete the program has been eliminated. This step has been deemed unnecessary since candidates may be recommended while the program is on inactive status. Should the institution decide to withdraw the program, there are safeguards to ensure that all candidates that have not finished the program are notified in advance of the impending closure of the program and given opportunities to complete the program. Additionally, language around a program's responsibility to participate in accreditation activities has been clarified. Also at issue were situations in which programs or institutions with particularly challenging issues may elect to move to inactive status in order to pause the program and cease taking new candidates while the operations of the program that are at issue are attended to. Over the years, a new issue has arisen that requires committee consideration and discussion. Some institutions with challenging issues identified by site visit teams have determined that the best way to address, I'm sorry, I'm getting out of order. The pause that I mentioned previously can be for a variety of valid and practical reasons. However, a challenge can occur when the time period of the program, the time period that is allowable for a program to be inactive, which is 5 years, conflicts with the time period that's been established for the requirement to address all the stipulations, which is typically 1 year. If a program is allowed to remain inactive for longer than 1 year and no candidates remain in the program, then it can become nearly impossible to remove the stipulations that relate to that particular inactive program. However, allowing institutions to go beyond the 1 year requirement with stipulations in which they are not actively addressing them for removal presents a challenge in that it gives the impression that the institutions are being allowed to ignore areas of concern when in fact that's not the case if the program is not operating. So this, I'm sure, sounds a little bit familiar to you after this morning's discussion. Staff is recommending that you adopt these changes as we do hope that they are in alignment with the direction that you gave us at the November meeting.
Great, thank you, Erin. All right, Mr. Member Alvarado.
So, yes, it's all coming back. I would make one minor formatting suggestion, and that is that rather than using bullet points, use numbers. And that if you're referring to any one item, it's difficult to say the 5th bullet. Just say item 4 of the procedure would make it easier.
Great suggestion. Member Erickson.
Did we specifically suggest that the program must have 15 or fewer candidates, or was that a suggestion from the staff?
That's existing language.
Oh,
so the only language that's different, and what you're looking at, is either the strike through, which we're proposing to eliminate, or the underline, which we're proposing to add.
That's helped us manage over time. If somebody says, we want to go inactive, but we have 75 candidates, I'm like, well, you're really running a full program, so it's helped us manage and have conversations with them. Wait until you get a little bit closer to only having so many candidates.
Any other questions, suggestions? No? All right, well, this is an action item. Do I have a motion to accept the changes as put forth by the PSD staff. I have a motion by Member Erickson, a second by Member Alvarado. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you for your work. And Miranda is ready to go. Right on. Okay. This is item 21, which is the discussion of streamlining initial program review. Consultant Miranda Gutierrez will introduce this item. Ms. Gutierrez, will you begin, please?
So, good afternoon. If you have ever written a new program or reviewed one, you can probably especially appreciate this topic and be excited about it. So this presents a discussion about the current initial program review process that is outlined and then some considerations of how it might be streamlined. So just a little bit of background information. Anytime an approved program sponsor wants to offer a new educator preparation program, they have to go through the initial program review process. So that consists of writing a narrative response to all the program standards and providing supporting documentation. These are reviewed by a team of two experts from the field in the content area. The average timeline for IPR right now is 6 to 12 months from the time it's received and the time it's approved with the COA. And depending on the type of program that it is, it can take, a shorter amount of time or sometimes a longer amount of time. If you've ever seen one of these programs, they can be up to 500 pages long, sometimes more, sometimes less. There's lots of narrative, lots of evidence, and syllabi to review. As you know, the reviewers for these programs are completely voluntary. So when we send out emails asking people to review, one of the common responses as to why people decline is the time commitment, because it is a lot of time to review one of these programs with a fine-tooth comb, the narrative, and all the documentation. So one thing that staff has been considering is how we can streamline this process, both for institutions and both for reviewers, without losing the quality aspect of the review. So as you know, the program review process was streamlined with the accreditation streamlining process. And so with that, we lost a lot of the narrative, and institutions were required to submit evidence and exhibits that are prescribed in the program review instructions. So staff has been talking about how we can incorporate some of these aspects into the initial program review process so that reviewers are still able to review the quality of the program, but it's not such a time-consuming commitment. Comments from people who have reviewed program review have indicated that it's effective and efficient. They feel like they get a good idea of the program. And of course, with that, they're going and checking on it they're going and verifying that at the site visit. So with initial program review, we're not considering eliminating the back and forth, making sure standards are aligned, but at least eliminating some of the narrative. So on page 2, there are some questions that are outlined for discussion. And the first one is that, is a streamlined process appropriate for those institutions who are still going through initial institutional approval? And does the COA and staff still think that there's need to be more narrative responses provided there? Are there other pieces of evidence that are not provided or required for program review that should or need to be required with IPR? Are there any components that might be able to be reviewed by staff just to ease some of the time on reviewers? How much narrative should be required for the new program, and what types of standards require narrative? We know that most program standards have a component of program design and curriculum, so just in discussions here, we think that's something that could still be required, just so that there's the context for the new program. But other than that, it's open for discussion. So at this time, if there's anything you want to discuss about the process.
Member Riggs, thank you.
So I'm still, every time we do the program review thing at the beginning of the meeting, I always feel like I'm not sure why we do this, because we really basically are trusting that the reviewers did it all and it's just a stamp of approval. We don't really have any knowledge on which to base our vote. And when I think back to when we've had serious difficulties with programs, it seems like at least 2 times that I can recall, it was something that happened at the time of program approval in the first place, rather than something that occurred after the program had between that time period. It was something that should have been caught most likely at the time of program approval or the initial program review, right, and program approval. And so then I think the timing of this is kind of unfortunate because in my mind I'm thinking, oh, well, I'm not sure it should be expedited in any way if a couple of times it slips through without us knowing something so basic about the program that it gets approved and then it isn't caught until they go through an accreditation visit later on. But it's only happened, I think, twice since I've been around, and so that's not very often. And I'm not sure that, so clearly maybe the process we already have wouldn't be sufficient to catch that in the first place. And I don't know how those things happen where we don't catch them. And I hope you all could follow that train of thought, which was kind of like...
I can, and I actually would like to respond if I could, because I think it will actually help us catch things. Because if we have a prescribed certain evidence that they need to submit, I think it's a lot easier than reading 1,500 pages of narrative and thinking you understand it when you might not understand it if we're very specific about what's your course sequence, what's your syllabi. I mean, there are certain things in program review we go right to. It's just that they don't force feed us how do you meet a particular standard, but we know that there are certain things that we need. I actually think it'll help with that rather than hinder. That's my opinion about it, but because I think we can be very clear. Are you running an intern program or are you not? So.
Member Forbes and then Ms. Croy.
Having both written and reviewed multiple of these kinds of documents, I agree completely with what Ms. Hickey just said, because sometimes people can write very gifted narrative that obscures the fact that there's really the emperor's wearing no clothes. And so it's easy to get lost into that. And then with the back and forth process of going back and forth with your reviewer, even with all the best of intentions, with volunteers, the time lag has a chilling effect, quite honestly. Like, we'd like to propose a special ed program. I haven't had time to get the proposal off the blocks because, it's a big process. And, I think a lot of us have experienced that. So I think this could help us surface some of those issues early on, because I also wondered today, and this is a slightly different topic, but in the terms of the program we saw today, how come that didn't show up in some of these earlier steps? And so, I think, that really, it had a tendency to also kind of bias my thinking originally about this item, but in the long run, I think the benefits of streamlining outweigh the possible, ones that may get through the system without being as thoroughly vetted.
Right, Ms. Croy and then Ms. Carney, Dr. Carney.
And having been
Ms. Croy first.
I'm sorry. Having been in the program assessment before program review came along, and Catherine was able to put together the more condensed, but not less information. It was actually more information, and it was exactly what someone said, Cheryl, I think, said, reading 1,500 and thinking, I think they said that somewhere in there is kind of scary. But I do know we need more information initially than we need in program review after it's been going. But I think it's how we get the information is the key, and so it's more accurate.
Dr. Carney.
Sorry to be late. I had to do some HR paperwork for my, something that's happening tomorrow. So, a couple of things, like just thinking of the program that was so heavily debated earlier today. In program review, we lengthened the summary. So it used to be 500 words, and now it's a full program summary. You can get caught up in nomenclature, which I think was half the problem way earlier. But there's also a table where they have to identify the pathway, and we give them very narrow choices. The prescription, and I know that we have a couple of newer committee members who actually participated in program review last year, and one that it was fraught with problems, and they were identified. And I don't know that there was that as many with you, but maybe you guys could speak to the kind of, if you felt like the evidence was robust enough to know the program. Anybody new?
Well, put pressure. Go ahead.
Well, I participated in that session, and I mean, a picture's worth 1,000 words as far as I'm concerned. You know, I would say that as somebody who also launched, like, kind of brought a new program back from the dead. I mean, it was pretty much in hibernation, and it came back completely different because the standards were completely different. I mean, I didn't even start with the old program. So I kind of had to, like, demonstrate that we should be reactivated, and I didn't really know what that meant. So it was all like this evidence-based thing. But I would say some reasonable balance between the artifact, the piece of evidence, and then some qualifier or statement of, it's almost like the claim evidence reasoning kind of thing. Like, we don't need so much reasoning, but we do need to have more than just the things speaking for themselves. So maybe some formula that allows people to explain why their artifact is where it is somehow, some way to organize the artifact so they create a coherence as a whole, I might suggest. The other thing I would say, as somebody who did bring back a new program, is, God, more feedback at the front end will help the plane fly in a much more straight path. I mean, if there's any way to get it right the first time or make those changes that you all know, staff knows from looking at, you know, these programs over years. I mean, if we can, you know, get that initial approval, you know, go back to the drawing board a couple times on that initial approval, maybe that takes a couple times instead of it just being kind of like a 6 to 12 months pretty much, you know, assured, give them the benefit. Because there might be a fatal flaw that proves to be the undoing of a program. And if we just, you know, knew that from the onset, everybody's life gets a lot easier, including ours, right?
So just to follow up on that, I think that over the last 2 years, the training for the reviewers, like, we have a cadre of reviewers who knows how to give that kind of powerful feedback that you're talking about. And they have said that they feel that in reviewing, our veteran reviewers who have reviewed also program assessment, that they're getting just as much from, if not more, from the institution having to show them rather than tell them.
When I think about you were saying, I've read and written so many, and I think back to what were my struggles with the process. One, staff is always there, so that's not a struggle. Thank you for always being there and answering our questions in a timely way. Miranda, I'll always be grateful for your help last year. It's a pro and a con, and there's that flexibility. Just show how you're meeting the standard. And I'm like, okay, I'm new at this. What exactly is the evidence that you need? So sometimes I'm thinking a checklist of suggestions. The flexibility is great, but I would love some suggestions. What do you need with regards to the narrative or just the links to this? Because it is a new system. So we don't know for the next few years until we get the exemplars, which we're going to put on our dashboard, right? I'm just kidding, I don't know. But that's the kind of thing that I think would help streamline the process, because if people know what to drop in there, then you'll be going, oh, this is right off the recommendations, and hopefully they're doing it. But I would love to have more guidance in the writing of the program with regards to what you're looking for rather than just meeting the standard. Yes. Member Erickson.
I would agree, because that still gives us plenty of latitude in developing how we deliver the program. But those guidelines, I think, would be particularly helpful.
That word guidelines is critical, because I know that you want it to be flexible, and that's appreciated. I know that somewhere in our handbook is actually that's one of our goals, is that we have a variety of avenues for credentialing. But when you're sitting down to type it up and you're looking at, okay, we've talked about it with the team, what it's going to look like, what's the evidence that you need, it can be daunting. And then to get the feedback that we didn't get it right is daunting. Okay, yes, Member Chakowski.
Yeah, yesterday Gay and I crossed paths in San Diego at this, assessor calibration thing for the Cal APA. That was pretty eye-opening. And the comment I was going to make before I made eye contact with Gay over there was that having some models or markers or anchors or examples really helpful. I would just really caution from a practitioner vantage point, more than one, more than two, always in sets that are very diverse, so there's not just one way to get it done, because we're all rule followers, right? I mean, you're just going to create a bunch of clones. That's obviously why you don't have these, specifics of exactly what the ILP should look like. Awesome. Thank God you never did that. That's great. So maybe some annotated samples in sets that all have some sort of internal coherence about that which this group values would be really useful material for the field out there.
I remember
Online.
when we first started writing our induction programs, the LEAs, whenever it was that, a long time ago, 10 years ago, and we got together, and that's when we first started our cohorts across the state, and we'd sit in a room and we'd write together, and they all sounded very similar, but we were all meeting the standards, and we created that thing on the outside that was differentiated based on the needs of our community and our teachers. But we were approved, and those teacher induction programs, for the most part, I felt rocked it. Like we would just had the great teacher induction programs across the state because we had this kind of formula. Okay, what are you doing? And then, FACT came up, and we did FACT, and we were all doing that. We knew we met the standards. And then people started thinking outside the box with regards to FACT, and now we're in a different place. But it was so helpful to have those examples or to be in a room and just to have that conversation going. And now we're back in our offices going, okay, how are we going to run this program? And can I have some samples or examples or recommendations before I get to I've submitted it, and then I get it back with an overwhelming amount of feedback, or not if you're lucky.
So one other suggestion that just comes to mind as you're talking about that, and I had similar experience in San Diego. After listening to this one presentation, I can't remember the name of the school. I should have it, but obviously it's later in the day. I know who I'm going to get on the phone with. I'm here. I know who they are. I'm not going to ask to see their stuff, but those are contacts. So as we think about networking among coordinators of various programs, I know there's a finite amount of money, but it's 2019. You can connect with people via Zoom, and it doesn't cost anything. So I don't know, some support for that type of relationship building might be helpful.
I know Gabe for a while was doing that with the past programs. So you were creating those think tanks, and I walked away from those think tanks just going, yay, I have the information I need and some contacts to reach out to. So that was a great effort. Are we off task? Are we answering the questions that you needed, Miranda? Yeah, Member Alvarado.
Yeah, I think we're a little bit off task, but I think it's a relevant conversation, and I think the issue is how do you scaffold it in such a way that it doesn't become burdensome. But the latter part of the conversation goes back to an earlier conversation we had about identifying exemplary programs in particular standards. Mm-hmm. And so that would, if that gets implemented along with a streamlined approach that's more scaffolded, then you have a comprehensive approach that will help folks not have to kind of be throwing darts in the dark, but both having a scaffolded experience, but also that the commission can refer them to a particular unit that has done a certain area well.
Great.
Member Forbes.
Well, and maybe this is getting down into the weeds, but very specifically to me, one of the most valuable aspects, even though it's technologically challenging, is the matrix. And I think, it wouldn't be possible to write an entire IPR document in the old system and not necessarily clearly think through all of the curriculum as to when something is going to be introduced, practiced, and assessed. Because I don't think that came out as clearly in those narratives. So that part I think would be, great to streamline into the matrix type of a format, whereas something like some of these are preconditions, like justification for an intern program, but some of the other program design things probably could remain in narrative. So it seems like it would be very doable to just sort of line them up next to each other, the program review process, and then look and see like what is based on implementation, and so you wouldn't have it for IPR, and then what contextual information do we need in IPR, so that we don't feel like we're just doing as Iris described, as Member Riggs described, by just sort of stamping, some of these.
Dr. Carney.
When we streamline the program review and the other pieces of accreditation and the standards themselves, one of the things that the Commission really held firm to is that field work and clinical practice is incredibly important. Mm-hmm. And the way that they reinforced that was by putting it both in the common standards as well as in all the program standards. And although reviewers spend a lot of time in the matrix, we do also in program review, and I think that this would be something that could transfer into IPR, almost all of the pieces, is that we ask for 6 distinct specific pieces of evidence related to fieldwork and clinical practice, including job-embedded fieldwork. Mm-hmm. And all but the piece that requires them to kind of name all the candidates and say, exactly where they're placed, which would be impossible if your program's not approved. But the other pieces taken together, I think, would fill out that picture where you really know what the meat of the program is between the matrix or / the ILP. You need that for induction. Those two things plus the field work might get at that more thoroughly than just the matrix.
Great, thank you. Anything else, Ms. Gutierrez, feedback you'd like from us at this point?
I don't think so. I think we have enough to go off from this conversation right now and do some work on our end. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. All right, we are at item 22. We are on the home stretch. This is the discussion of the new October-November 2019 COA meeting date. Michelle Bernardo will present this action item. Ms. Bernardo, will you begin, please?
Yes. So this final item proposes a new COA meeting date for the November 7th and 8th of 2019 meeting, as it conflicts with the CCAC Credential Counselors and Analysts of California Conference. They usually have it in November, the first week of November, but they've moved it to October. So we're proposing 2 dates. Originally it was 2 days for the meeting, but I think given the schedule for the site visits in the fall, we'll be able to condense it to just a one-day meeting. So for the 2 days that we're proposing is Thursday, October 24th, and then the second one is a Wednesday, October 30th. So just want to get your thoughts on which day would work best for you all.
Go ahead, Matt.
To be clear, the November 7th and 8th is being canceled. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. And the choices are the 24th?
24th of October and 30th. So Thursday and a Wednesday.
Okay.
And Sweetwater.
Member down if we take that day. And Thursday the 31st is always a notoriously hard day to get people. It's Halloween. I don't know why it becomes a hard day to get people. So
the 24th is better for me.
24th or 30th?
24th?
24th?
Yeah, that's on here. Is everybody okay with that? Okay. 1 day. All right.
So this is an action item. Do I have a motion to accept the date of October 24th in lieu of our November 2019 dates? I have a motion by Co-Chair Frelly. Do I have a second by Co-Chair Alvarado? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Ms. Bernardo. On the calendar. All right. This takes us to public comment. Does any member of the public have anything it wishes to say? All right. Having no further business, I adjourn the January 2019 meeting of the Committee on Accreditation. The next meeting of the committee will be on March 14th, 15th, 2019. Thanks so much. And no, Ms. Carney, you can't run away.
Of course.